You are a marine researcher seeking to find and observe an array of aquatic life in the colorful Sunlight Zone, ghostly Twilight Zone, and pitch-black Midnight Zone of the world's seas and oceans. Is that actually what they call those areas in the where you go deeper? Do they call that the Twilight Zone?
Why wouldn't ghosts be in the deep, dark Midnight Zone instead of the Twilight Zone?
Well, because the Twilight Zone is like a spooky TV show.
I think they're supposed to be vampires that actually don't get hurt by the sun in the Twilight Zone.
Like the book's Twilight.
Yes.
But I'm talking about the Twilight Zone. You know, imagine, if you will. Right? That's what they said in that show, right? In Finspan, the fish you discover over 4 weeks will generate a series of benefits as you dive deeper into the ocean. Each dive site specializes in a key aspect of expanding your research. Grow your collection of fish, discover freshly laid eggs, and hatch eggs into young, and nurture the young into schools. Those are the 3 ways you study fish. So today on the board, boys,
Finspan.
a Twilight. It's in the Twilight verse.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Board Boys Podcast, Season 15, Episode 5. Tonight on the docket, Finspan by Stonemaier Games. This is your board boy, swimming in the ocean, Rob.
That's pretty good. It's your boy, Floppy Fish, TK.
It's your boy, Holy Mackerel Jake.
And it is your boy, Dave the Diver, a.k.a. Cam, a.k.a. Boinker, Mac Doinker. We were talking about Dave the Diver earlier, that fun game.
So Cam, just to answer your question, it is the Sunlight and the Twilight Zone, and then there's also the Midnight Zone, the Abyss Zone, and the Hadal Zone.
So they didn't make those up for...
Expansion.
They didn't, but actually, so the Euphotic Zone is the Sunlight Zone. They all have, fancier names. The Dysphotic Zone is the Twilight Zone, and then there's the aphotic zone where sunlight does not penetrate, and then there's 3 zones inside of that zone, and that's where the Midnight, Abyss, and Hadal is, where the oogie boogie creepy fish live, half of which we probably haven't discovered yet.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about. We can't even go down there.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, we can go anywhere. We can go to the moon, and we can't even go down that deep. That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
We've been down
The ocean's scary.
decently deep.
How deep is the Marianas Trench? It goes all the way to the core, right?
No, it's like 6 miles.
Yeah.
It's like
That's how far it is to the core, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's significant. Like, it's barely a minuscule amount of movement in comparison to how wide the Earth is.
Right.
Yeah, it's barely down at all.
Huh. And then we haven't been down to the bottom of that, right? Maybe somebody dropped a quarter down there once, but...
It got eaten by a fish in the Abyss Zone.
Yeah. Can I say something about this cover art? I think I like it better than the Wyrmspan cover art.
It's very reminiscent of the Wyrmspan cover
It is,
art.
but for something, there's something I like more about it.
Well, it's really reminiscent of the Wyrmspan one too, with the wings outstretched.
It is actually it is the same color profile, right? Like it is.
Yeah.
And it looks like that bird.
Do you think that they specifically picked a fish that can fly for the cover of this box?
Absolutely, they did.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny.
What a cool game.
I would have put Jaws on the front. Or what's his name?
Richard Dreyfuss?
No, they named him.
Yeah, his name's Jaws. You talking about the bad guy from Bond?
I was just gonna make a joke about that.
Not that joke. I can't think of his name.
So wait, Jaws' name isn't Jaws?
He's got a name.
Yeah, Jaws, right?
What else would it be? Shark.
Yeah, Rodney. Watch out, Rodney's coming.
Humans have been to the bottom of the Marianas Trench.
Well, Jaws'
Really?
real
Yes.
name is Zimbignu Krzyzewski, but that's the Jaws you're talking about.
Oh,
The one with
yeah.
the metal jaw. Because that's what Google brought me up here. No, it's like Steve or something.
What's the lore behind
Bruce.
Jaws? Is his
Bruce is the name is like the name of the shark in Jaws that's why they call Bruce the shark in Finding Nemo.
Really?
That's the joke.
Let's go back to James Bond Jaws for a second. What's the lore associated with him? Does he just have like metal teeth? Is his jaw muscles enhanced that he can bite through anything? How does all that work?
I mean, how does Oddjob cut people in half with his hat?
True.
That's like,
I mean, I just
it doesn't take place on Earth.
We just used to like fight Oddjob and Jaws in Goldeneye a lot.
Oddjob was an automatic winner because you had to aim at a different profile.
Nobody could hit that guy.
I remember I had a friend in high school who was just obsessed with GoldenEye, and he was so good at it. But he had like the length of doors, how long they'd be open timed.
Oh, man.
And he would use that to like lure you to like shoot a rocket launcher right as the door closed, and then you die.
Can we talk about how masterful that soundtrack is?
It's a banger.
Or when you pause and it's like,
Cam, do you remember the name of the game that came out after GoldenEye that tried to capture that
The World Is
GoldenEye
Not Enough?
magic? No, it was an N64 game.
you're talking about Perfect Dark?
Yeah,
Perfect Dark did capture that golden.
I couldn't remember the name.
Perfect
of it,
Dark
but
was very good, and then the names they worked on after that were the Time Splitters games,
I like
which
Time
were
Splitters too a
also
lot.
all awesome.
I had one of my most traumatic video game situations with Time Splitters 2. I had unlocked everything, every little challenge, and some of those were so hard. And my friend decided that he wanted to copy my save file. So in the middle of saving, he took out his memory card and pulled out my memory card to put his in, and that corrupted my file, and I lost everything.
Oh, jeez, dude. Perfect Dark more fun than GoldenEye because you could add bots, so you could play with like 20 players, and all of the guns had secondary fire functions. So like you could have like. They had the laptop gun that you'd like throw out, and it would just like shoot people for you.
oh man, I forgot about
There was
that
a thing
one.
that shot through the wall, and you could look through the wall with X-ray, shoot through the wall. That game was the bomb, and they had tons of GoldenEye maps in it, like the temple was in that. So I think the complex was too. Anyway, Perfect Dark.
Yeah, on the Jaws wiki, the full name is Bruce the Shark. His gender is male, and his status is deceased. R.I.P. Bruce.
That's what why can't I think of the name of the group? That's what Electric Light Orchestra was talking about when they were singing "Don't Bring Me Down, Bruce." You know what I'm talking about? And then when they say that,
That
It's about Jaws.
It's about Jaws, not to catch you and bring you down.
exactly to
I
the
hope-
bottom of the ocean,
I hope-
bottom of the ocean floor.
I hope that's true.
I think "Don't Bring Me Down" came out before Jaws. What year did Jaws come out?
1954.
Oh well, then "Don't Bring Me Down" came out way after that. Because I think "Don't Bring Me Down" came out in, I'm gonna guess, 1978.
Well, Jaws came out in 1975.
Oh, so it probably is about Bruce the Shark.
Man, so it's 50 years old this year? Is that the right math on that?
Yes.
Whew. I remember I watched that show and I was like, oh, Bo, do you want to watch Jaws? It's rated PG. I couldn't really remember. Like, that was before they had any other kind of rating. Also, ratings from the 70s are way different than ratings would be today.
Yeah. So I worked at a pawn shop, and in Ames.
Whoa.
Yeah, for during college or whatever. And yeah, I mean, yeah, Campbell, a bunch of our buddies worked there. Dave and Jordan and.
Did it kind of feel like you were on Pawn Stars?
No, it felt like people bringing their garbage in to try to get money for it. But we would like play movies because we basically sold DVDs and stuff, right? And you could only play things that were PG. And Airplane, or wasn't it PG 13? I don't remember. Airplane, but it has like full on nudity, but it's like PG.
Well, they didn't have PG-13 back then.
Okay.
And then, like, for a while, PG-13 movies, maybe they still could have, like, one F word and, like,
Yeah,
They can.
like 2.5 nipples or something like that.
yeah. So it was always shocking when you're like, oh, let's watch Airplane, and then you're like, oh, yeah, we should probably turn this off.
Man, that's a show that we were at Amy's parents' house. Amy and I went somewhere and we came back. I guess Bo had just been watching Pawn Stars all morning. He had
Okay.
never seen the show before.
Yeah.
And now he's infatuated with pawn shops.
Yeah, so it was always interesting. You always have like people that, because we bought and sold guns, right? And there was.
You talking about Mr. Money?
Yeah, Mr. Money. Yeah,
I worked at Mr. Money too.
Did you before me, right?
Well, I think after you.
Was it after me? Okay.
What year did you work there?
I don't know.
I worked there
like
for like
2000
8
something.
months or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole like
with the
music
cool
crew.
lady who was the manager was the lady who was married to Aaron from
Yeah,
Bi-Fi. Right?
so-
She was awesome.
that would have been before me. She left like right before I got there.
Oh, so you were still around Ames then?
Mm-hmm.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess Jordan started there like right after I did too.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome.
Does anybody have a cool pawn shop story?
I'm sure there's a bunch, but selling guns, people would walk in and be like, "This is a robbery," joking, but like would have a gun and like slap it on the table and be like, "What the hell is going on?" Yeah,
That's
like,
a terrible
yeah,
joke.
Exactly. Yeah, and it would happen more often than not. So,
I have a funny restaurant story kind of like that.
I mean, people would come with loaded guns.
Yeah,
like
they would.
Like, guys, like you have to like leave the store and get this, like take this stuff out and then bring it back in, and I will get you money for this thing. So, yeah.
So here's a thing that when I was working at the pawn shop, I don't know if you would do this, but like basically, anything we were taking in, we kind of had like a rubric of like how much to give people for it, and and we could kind of wiggle a little bit, right?
Yep.
And so if people would be like, "How much will you give me for this?" We'd just be like, $38, and they'd be like, "No, what's the most you will do?" That'd be just like $39.
Yeah.
But like if somebody would come in for something that'd be $38 and they'd be like, "Could I get 48 for this?" I'd be like, "Sure."
Yeah.
Like I don't know, I just like when people ask the price they would like to get for something.
Yeah.
I never like the how much will you give me.
Yeah, we'd always
But
look it up
but
on.
pawn shops, like I couldn't work there very long because like the payday loan part of it made me like way too depressed. Have you guys familiar with payday loans?
Yes.
It's like the most predatory thing in
Yes.
all of the world. Like they were for sure invented by like absolutely evil people.
Yeah, and the amount of people that would come in basically every time.
Well, yeah, because you have to, because you can never catch back up.
Right.
Like, imagine you're making like amount of money where you barely scrape by. You need $500 before your payday comes, and you have to pay back $550. Well, that just means that you're going to run out of money, so you have to go get another $500. So basically, like all you're doing is paying a pawn shop, $50 a week
Yep.
for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
for nothing. When like you could just stop that cycle by being like talking to a friend and being like, "Hey, can I borrow $500 for, like 3 days?" And then all of a sudden you don't have anybody interested anymore. But I need to start a payday loan company. That is the goal is to get people out of payday loans, and they have to pay back $1 more than they took.
Sure.
And if they keep doing it, fine. I just make $1 off them every week. But
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going to get the money for that.
Yeah, and then one person defaults and
Yeah, then it ruins the business forever.
yeah.
Would you say the majority of people just were selling stuff, or how many people came back for their stuff?
Pretty often.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean half the time. I don't know.
Yeah,
It depends on what the stuff was.
right. Yeah, like
Yeah.
if people are pawning, like, and it's hard to take in stuff that's not worth very much. So if people pawn like a boom box, yeah, probably not.
Yeah. But for the most part, people would tell you that, they would just sell it. Like, I don't want this back, right? But like most people that pawn things generally came back for them. And we did have people that would, pawn the same stuff over and over and over again, kind of like the payday loans.
Yeah,
And, we would charge them interest for it or whatever. But
but the pawn interest is not as bad as
it's
the payday
definitely
loan
not as
interest.
bad. But they would talk people into ratcheting up like how much they were getting, and then one day they just wouldn't come back for it. So like, if it was something that was $100, you would give them $100 and they would pay $120 back or whatever. And then they'd be like, next time, be like, "Hey, I'm good for it. Like, make it 110." And it would like and then all of a sudden it's like $250 for this piece, and then they just don't come back because it's not worth that.
Well, that's a cool
Yeah.
actually thing to do.
Yeah. So that happened quite often.
Was what's his name? The manager of the place when you were there? That dude that they found like sleeping in the office with like Cheeto crumbs all over his stomach.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, that
yes,
dude.
yeah.
That dude was hilarious, and he was just a peon when I was there,
Yeah.
just like me. We were just in the trenches together, and I was like, this guy is not a good guy.
Yeah. And then they made him a manager.
And one time after that, I was like tending bar at like a club or something, and he came into the bar on a. I probably shouldn't have done this, but he came into the bar on a date with like a pretty girl, and he was like, "Oh, this is Campbell. Campbell used to work for me." I'm like, I used to work for this guy. And so I was like, kind of like, I didn't like that. I didn't want to be associated with like being this guy's underling. So he goes to the bathroom and like to the girl, I'm just like, that dude is not a good dude. And also, I never worked for him. And also, he got fired as like a pawn shop manager for like sleeping in his office with Cheeto crumbs all over his stomach. And the girl's just like, oh, okay. And I guess it's her. I mean, up to her whether or not. Yeah. I shouldn't have done that. But
I mean, some women like that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Cheeto crumbs.
Hey, here's a funny story about robbing the place. One time when I was managing the Hy-Vee restaurant in Douglas, on Douglas Ave in Urbandale, like right after they opened restaurants, that's what I was doing in like 2012 or whenever they did that. This guy comes into the restaurant like 1 minute before we close, or maybe like 5 minutes after we close. I'm the only person in there. Like all the lights like in this wing of the store are off. This dude comes in and he's like kind of weird looking, and he comes up to me and he's like, shh. And he kind of motions towards like a piece of paper. And he writes on the piece of paper, how many $100 bills do you have? And I was like, that's a weird question from a guy writing this. So I'm like, I think I there were probably like 10 or in there, whatever in there, but I think I just wrote like 2, you know? And he's like, I have I'm like, uh-oh. Lot of 20s and I'm trying to get 100s. Sorry, I'm deaf. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, yeah, let me check. Oh, actually, I have like 10. 100. They gave me like a stack of 20s and I gave him a bunch of $100
You think
bills.
you would lead with the like, throw the 20s on the table, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and like what he wrote was like, I have I'm like, oh no, about to get
A
robbed.
hand in my pocket with
But,
a
like,
finger
what
gun.
I was thinking was like, I'm probably not going to get killed because like there are cameras here. So I was getting ready to like point out the cameras and be like, do whatever you want, but like just don't shoot me, please.
Yeah. And take this is Hy-Vee. I don't care. Like, take all the money.
All right, well, let's talk about some board games we've been playing. We just got back from GammaCon in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. No, Coralville, Iowa. At a new location. It was pretty fun. I think this is the longest I've gone to the con, I guess. Usually I do like one night, but I was there all weekend. And I started off the con by playing a game with a guy named Glenn that I actually met at Gen Con, who knows our buddy Kyle Piper.
Oh, nice.
And I went to Gen Con and actually sold him a game, like through like the virtual, like the flea market on there. It's like we both drove to Indianapolis for me to sell him this game. Anyway, played a few games with him and his group this weekend. And the first one was called Lowlands. This is from 2018. Wow, this is older than I thought. The designers Claudia Partenheimer and Ralph Partenheimer. And Feuerland Spiel is the company that did it. And it's in the E.V.A. Rosenberg line of games, which I didn't know was a thing that existed. But if you ever look at this game, you're just going to know that you're playing a game that is very much like any E.V.A. game I've ever played before in my life, which is not normally my jam. But this one is pretty neat. You're basically building out your board. You're taking actions with these workers. They have different powers. And you're building up. So the deal is you're building like these sheep farms in, I forget which country, but there's a flood coming in, and so you also have to like work together to build these dams.
Okay. Yeah, I know what this game.
And if you don't build enough dams, the water comes in and floods stuff away. The cool part is it's a very, as far as Euros go, it is very interactive because you can hammer the dam really hard and build it up and then get all this progress for it, but then really score no points for it if it never floods. But then your sheep are all worth a ton of points. But then maybe you didn't spend time, building up your farm and getting sheep. And then there's all these buildings you can buy that go on your board as well. Or the other way is you ignore the dam and you score nothing for it, and then everything floods out and it's bad. The thing is, if it gets flooded out, whoever did the worst at helping with the dam gets some negative stuff. So it's all about like trying to keep up with everybody else on the dam building, but maybe not go overboard on it. I don't know. It's neat, and like it's got like the wooden blocks where you're building up the dam, and it's on the lighter side of things. And you probably play it in like under 90 minutes. I think, and the box just looks super boring, and it's like farming and sheep, and the cards look like the Catan cards with the resources on them. But the gameplay was fun. So if you see it, don't be afraid of it. I'd go give it a shot. It was a fun game. I think Jake would like it.
It looked really cool, seeing the visual buildup of the dam and the water like stacking up, and it that's a pretty unique presence. So it definitely piqued my interest.
Yeah, it had an interesting flow to it, I guess.
All right, I can go next. Speaking of E.V.A, I want to talk about Black Forest, which is a 2024 release. It's a re-implementation of Glass Road, and the designers are Tito Lorenz and Uwe Rosenberg, and then it's Lucas Siegman is the artist. So it's very reminiscent to Glass Road, if you've played that before, and Glass Road is one of my favorite games, so I think that definitely made it something I was interested in right off the bat. And so it uses resources in a similar way, which I think that's probably the neatest thing about Glass Road and then therefore Black Forest. But you have these two wheels, and as you gain resources, when you get at least one of all of them, it's going to automatically produce what are your upscale goods. So in Glass Road, it's both bricks and it's glass, and in Black Forest it's just glass. Brick got moved to another side, and you're getting provisions on the other side, which allow you to move around. So whereas Glass Road is all about playing a hand of cards and then kind of learning to anticipate what other people might use, so you don't pick those cards, so you get double benefits instead of just one. Black Forest is more of a movement of a worker around. So you're moving and you're activating different actions. There's a ton of variability in that because all of the actions are tiles that you place out. So what is in each place is different, but then there's also one tile that allows you to move things around. So it feels like it's very much in the same universe, but just kind of a different take on what the core of the game is. And so I thought that was interesting. Ultimately, I think I like Glass Road better because I think the card system is unique and it probably goes a little faster. But I think my biggest critique, minus the insane bowing of the cardboard that's in there, it's wild how bad that is. Just to not having done anything there. Both ends are completely curled up. It's like a little U. That's too dramatic, but it's not good. But my least favorite thing is every single building is out, and it is just so much. We had just got done playing Civolution, which has a huge table presence, and Black Forest has a bigger table presence. And probably not only that too, but because of the way you have to stagger things with the central board and all the buildings, like two people are probably just not going to be by those buildings. And that's a pretty fundamental part of what the game is. It does give you some versatility in the fact that buildings, 10 of them are on their B sides each game. And I think eventually you just kind of generally learn. I guess it's helpful that on the far left column, it lays out a resource and it kind of tells you, hey, buildings of this type are in this row, but it's just so much to look at. And I think that's super overwhelming for an early player.
Yeah, and imagine somebody buys the building you were planning on. You're just like, oh no, I have to figure this one all out again. I thought the game was fine. I didn't love Glass Road, but I liked it. I didn't love Black Forest, but I liked it. 2 boings. 2 boings. 2, I think.
I really like the wheel resource thing in those games. I wish I liked the games more. I need to play probably Glass Road again. It's been a really long time since I played that one, but I kept hearing really, really good things about Black Forest, so I was excited, and it just did not hit for me. I probably need to play it when I'm not like in a lull in the afternoon. I was kind of like hitting a sleepy time, so I probably didn't give it the what it deserved as far as a shot. But I was expecting something lighter or faster after hearing people talk about it at BGG, kind of like, yeah, we played it like in an hour or like 70 minutes or like, and like Dave Dugas, who that's maybe not his kind of game, like loved it. And I was like, oh, maybe this game is like different enough, but it seems like it's heavier than Glass Road was, or there's more, maybe it's the building thing. It's been a long time since I've played Glass Road, so I don't really remember. I do like the dude moving around the board movement thing. And I like those little achievement things you can...
the jobs.
The
Yep,
jobs.
Jobs is the best part.
Yeah.
Jobs are super cool. It's kind of a bummer that you go through all of them, so you're going to more or less know what is in every game and when does it come out. But that is a super cool thing. Basically, you travel there and you have to give up the resources, then you get a pretty wild reward from it. I definitely like it. If you like Glass Road and you like E.V.A. games, I think you should definitely give it a try. It adds livestock, which is something that a lot of E.V.A. games have, but Glass Road didn't. So that's in there. And then also there's ways you can kind of expand your board and get kind of creative with where you place things. So I enjoyed it. I think I'll keep it. Just E.V.A. is one of my favorite designers, anyways, and I think it's enough different. It feels reminiscent, but it's a different game, and I guess I kind of like that about it.
Maybe they'll fix the boards in the second printing.
Yeah, just opening it was wild how much those
popped
were
out
warped.
like
I
a
think-
snake in a bag, like one of those, like the snake in a can sort of.
I think more companies need to go because they're dual layer boards, kind of, right or not? They're,
Those ones weren't.
I wonder why they're so warped.
Yeah.
A lot of times dual layer player boards get warped, but a lot of companies are going to the build your own
with the little stickers.
player board, and I like those a lot more. I mean, it's a little more work up front, but those never are warped.
Yeah.
You know.
Like the ones where you have you like press them together and
Yeah.
pop out Here's a game I played recently. It's called Azul Duel. You guys hit that one up yet?
You have no idea
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Rob and I are currently in a game right now.
Oh, there's a tutorial. You guys go play the tutorials, man. They take like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it seems like work.
Nico Nyancer does them, and he's the man. I messaged
Yeah.
him on BGA.
Currently,
the
I
other
think
day.
this game sucks.
Well, so let me tell you what I think about it. It is a lot of extra work. I think it would be fun in person, but it's just a lot of extra work on top of regular Azul. I think the idea is neat because you sort of build out your own player board, but there's only 5 rounds and the boards are 6x6. And so the way you can get like full rows is by utilizing like every turn you will grab like some squares that have colors on them, and where you place them is like where the chips can go. So they don't have the same like Azul rules of you can't have the same color in the same row, but you have to place the colors where you put the things on your board. And there are some of those squares that have like a blank spot, and it fills up with a chip automatically if you fill all the other ones. And so in order to get like the 6x rows, you have to fill those out. But like there's bonus chips you pick up that you put 2 together to make like a chip of a color choice.
Yeah, I wasn't understanding
okay.
that at all.
And like so the whole thing is like the ideas in it are really cool, but playing it on Board Game Arena, like there's like 50 choices per round. And so you can play a game of Azul Duel in like a million turns. Like there's just more to do than regular Azul. However, I think in like playing like against somebody head to head, I think it would be maybe a little more fun than regular Azul.
I think Azul already rocks as a 2-player game.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe more fun than playing Azul 2 players, but I still don't think Azul Duel would be better than like just a normal game of Azul, maybe even 2-player. So
I mean, I really like Azul 2-player.
yeah, but
very
Azul
cutthroat.
Duel is cool. Like if you're like, I think if you play Azul a lot, Azul Duel would be like your go-to maybe 2-player. But I mean, for my money, just regular Azul is the one to have on the shelf. But I like it. It's cool.
It seems like just a lot more.
It is a lot more, but
Yeah.
like it doesn't add that much like extra fun to the game.
Right.
So Azul Duel.
I got a little card game I want to talk about. It's called R Eco Plus. Came out in 2023. It is Hobby Japan is the publisher, and the designer is Susumu Kawasaki.
Oh yeah, he's my favorite designer.
Yeah. So this is an import-only game, I think. I don't think you can get this in the U.S. But Glenn had a copy of it, and we had a little bit of time. So he pulled out this little box of cards, and basically you're just trying to collect garbage and separate them into recycling. And ultimately what you're doing is trying to put cards down. There's 4 different colors, and you're trying to put cards down. And once you get 4 of a card, so if I get 4 green cards down there, I get to take the money card. And the money card starts off at like 0, and then they go up to 1, then 2, then 3. Then there's like a -2, and there's a 4, and there's a 5. And then as soon as a money deck runs out, the game's over. But the deal is you could only ever have 5 cards in your hand. And so when you play cards down, if you play 2 cards down to one of the piles, you then have to take all the other cards on the other side of the pile that have accumulated, and then the other side of the pile gets 1 more card than the number of cards you laid down. So if I laid 2 cards down, I'd pick up whatever was on the other side, and then 3 cards replace it on the other side. And what happens is it ramps up to where like you're starting to have to take 3, 4, 5 cards at a time, and you can only hold 5 cards. And if you ever go over 5, you disgrace your family and have to discard some cards. That was like the funny part in the rule book. I brought much disgrace to my family.
Sounds about right.
And I won the game.
Okay.
Because whoever doesn't disgrace their family gets like to share some bonus points at the end. But strategically, I was like, forget those points. Let's just go this way. When I looked at it, I'm like, are we really going to play this game? But it was fun. If I could find a copy of our Eco Plus, it was really neat. It's really hard to explain. I hope I did it halfway justice, but it's really just playing cards to a pile, but you're strategically trying to bust a pile when you can, and then manage your hand and get the right cards from the other side of the pile so then you can play to the other piles. And the other neat thing is you can only score point cards if you have 2 of that colored point card. So if I get one that's worth $4, but I don't have any other from that pile, I don't get anything out of it. So I think Cam's showing the picture of the designer. I thought maybe you were finding a picture of the game.
I wanted to look up how you spell this. It's R-ECO plus. And the reason I wanted to look it up was because I'm going to have to spell it when I do the description for this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool. I don't know.
It was wild. Does anybody else have anything?
I want to talk about one more if you guys don't. Is that okay?
I also have one more, but go ahead.
Can I do that?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if this game's out already, if it's been out, if it came to the United States, if it didn't. It's on Board Game Arena. It might still be in alpha. It might have dropped in beta or like full. Let's see. Oh, it might just be out now. I think it's just out now. It's called Potions of Azerland.
That game looks cool.
Potions of Azerland is kind of what I think most people think the game Alchemists is going to be like before they play Alchemists. So what you're doing in Potions of Azerland is you play a series of rounds. You go foraging for ingredients, and then you like move your study tracks up. There's a yellow potion, a blue potion, and a red potion you can make. And like basically you get to move each of those tracks, and like the better you are at those colors, the more like benefits you get when you drink one of those color potions at the beginning of the round. Then you can go like to the market and buy ingredients that you couldn't find when you were foraging. Then you make potions with the ingredients you have, and then you can use them to like buy, like you can use them to fulfill orders. But what is interesting about the game is it's kind of like you bid for each of the turn order things. So like whoever forages first gets more forage, and whoever makes potions first gets more potions, and whoever fulfills contracts first obviously gets to fulfill contracts first. So you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 card, and you secretly play them in what priority you want to do each of those things in every round.
Is there 5 things?
There's 5 things, and
Okay.
if you flip like your better cards, like your higher priority cards, if you flip them over, you skip the action, but you get 2 coins. And your lower priority cards, if you don't want to do an action, you can flip them over and just get 1 coin when that happens instead. And the coins will you can use the coins to like buy stuff in the market. It's neat. It's like it's not super thinky, but like it's just enough, I think, to be a fun like collection, creation, and fulfillment game. I've only played it a couple times, so like I can't like be super definitive on like how much staying power it has for me for like a kind of casual game. But I think I could play it several more times and still be having fun. So Potions of Azerland, I think it's one worth checking out. Definitely on BGA, but maybe on IRL as well.
It sounds cool.
Yeah, it is.
Invite me to a game, Cam.
I'll invite you to a game.
Come on.
I feel bad because like I'm in a lot of games, so like I usually only take 1 turn per game per day. I know there's a whole subculture of dudes on our Discord, including you guys, who like to take like 8 turns a day on games.
Sure.
Or all the turns.
Yeah.
Yeah, or one turn. It's fine.
I have like 60 games going. You know?
We got to get you up to 100 again. I'm going to invite you
Never.
to 40
Never get me there again.
40 games of Potions of...
And 30 games
but
of
like
Sky
I'm
Team.
sure I'm sure Rob is finding out that like if you invite me to a game where it's a fast turn mode, then like I take like multiple turns a day because it's always my turn when I open the web page. Right? So I mean
I would say it is more frequent.
yeah, cuz like if Board Game Arena had a thing where it's like sort it by like last time played, I would, and then I'd just take like however long like people have been waiting for me like the most. But the way you can get around this is just invite me to a game where I have to take like 3 turns a day, and it'll always just pop up in the forefront.
I set ours to 8 turns a day.
Yeah, exactly. and I'm basically getting through it without running out of time.
I don't care if we're in the red.
Yeah, I don't either. But like it pops it there first, so that's good. Just don't everybody do that to me, because then we can't solve that problem. Plus, I'll never get to my alphas then.
The last game I want to talk about is called Rebel Princess. I don't know how I had missed this game. I guess it came out at last Gen Con and had lines for it and things. This is from E.V.A Games, and essentially this is Hearts on steroids. So if you like Hearts, you probably like this one.
And if you like steroids, you probably like it too.
It's a trick-taking game where you are playing as one of these princesses, like the Little Mermaid or Snow White or Cinderella. There's a bunch of different ones, and they all have a special ability that you can use once per hand. And you play over 5 rounds, and every round you're trying to avoid all the princelings in like marriage proposals.
Okay.
Is the theme.
You're trying to throw it down.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's instead of the Queen of Spades, there is the 8 of Frogs. It's a frog. And he has 5 proposals, so you don't want that guy either.
Okay.
And you're trying to get the least amount of points, but every round there's a special rule that tells you how many cards you're passing and what direction and what the rule is for that round. And there's a bunch of extra ones of those too. And so you just play 5 rounds, just like Hearts. There's no trump unless the card specifies there's trump. And some of the things we played with were like, if there's a 6 in this trick, now the lowest card wins the trick. Kind of thing. So things like that kind of just throw wrinkles into everything. It was super fun. There's a regular edition that is all cards that's like $15, and then there's a deluxe edition that's like $30. And I think it might be kind of close to in between printings right now.
What's the difference?
Hard to get. The special edition has actually a couple more princesses.
Okay.
And the princesses are cardboard instead of cards. And the round cards are like bigger tarot-sized cards, so they're easier to see.
Okay.
And so then they don't all get mixed in, and you get a couple extra ones of those as well. So for the money you get, I kind of like the fact that you don't have all the cards that are the same, because sometimes it's annoying to sort that stuff out. Plus you get a little bit of extra stuff, so it's probably worth the extra couple of bucks. But
For whatever reason, every time that you've said the name of this game,
yeah.
I assumed it was a Star Wars game.
Rebel Princess?
Yeah.
There very well might be a Princess Leia in there.
I just assumed it was like Rebels, Star Wars Rebels, because it's AU and
I think, I mean, because Princess Leia is a Disney princess
Right.
now, so I'm kind of curious how they, I don't know, are like Disney princesses in the public domain now or something?
no,
Or like,
I don't.
Well, a lot of them are.
I mean,
A lot of Disney princesses were in the public domain when Disney made the movies of them.
yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
So I guess I don't know how else you do it, because it's not like it was originally like a foreign game that they brought here.
Yeah.
So like they could do whatever they wanted, but
I mean, you can't use the Disney art, but you could have Cinderella and Snow White and Rapunzel and the Little Mermaid and Princess Leia.
Anyway, I'm stoked to get a copy of this and play with you guys. I think you guys will like it.
Cam, what is the Little Mermaid's name? She's the only one you said by the movie and not by the name.
Well, I think so. Here's the thing, because I think a lot of the Disney princesses have names that are probably trademarked by Disney. Like, I don't think the Little Mermaid's name is Ariel in like the story of the Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen, right? But I think she's just a Little Mermaid. So I don't know if you would be able to do a Little Mermaid with red hair. I don't know if you'd be able to get away with that.
Not only did he know her name, he knew the author of the original book.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. I mean,
Do you guys think I'm a boob?
Wait, hold on. There's a chance that that's not actually the author, and he just said a dude's
That's
name.
Hans Christian Andersen, right? Who did The Little Mermaid?
I don't have any idea.
I have no idea. I didn't know there was. I thought that was just a Disney thing. I didn't know.
No, he's
there
from
was an
Copenhagen.
original.
Like if you go to Copenhagen, right? Isn't that where the Little Mermaid statue is? He's a Danish guy.
The last time I went to Copenhagen, I wasn't paying
Hans
attention.
Christian Andersen. Hans Christian Andersen, Danish author, was a Danish author, although a prolific writer of plays, travelogues, yada yada. He's remembered for his fairy tales. He's a cool-looking guy.
I
The
just
Little
know-
Mermaid, The Ugly Duckling, The Emperor's New Clothes, all Hans Christian Andersen.
Huh,
And
that's
so-
interesting. I thought those were. I didn't know those were like remakes of old stories.
Hmm.
But I know a lot of old nursery rhymes / fables and things are generally fairly dark.
Well, I mean,
in the
I don't know if you like
original.
in The Little Mermaid, she dies. I think she gives her life
Dude,
for,
Spoilers.
but I think she like ascends and becomes a star or something like that.
All right.
But yeah, I've never actually read it. I just
Well, speaking of starfish, we played Finspan tonight.
There was no starfish.
there's no
this
Little
podcast,
Mermaid
yeah.
in the. You can't. There's
That's-
no.
that should be a-
that's a promo
That
card.
should be a promo, but these are all real fish and real science. You learned so much tonight, Campbell, like the layers of the ocean,
Yes, I did.
even though there's more than that.
Rob, just to make sure, you know starfish are real, right?
I do know they're real.
Okay, just
But he
checking.
said Little Mermaid. and
My
that's
daughter
not
saw
real.
a starfish at the zoo a couple days. Remember when it was really warm out? We were down that way, and we have the membership, so we just went, walked in for an hour. That's the nice thing about the zoo membership. The other nice thing is, sorry, Jake, I have a zoo membership. I know you're a conscientious objector.
I am.
But I listen. I got a 1-year-old daughter, and it's all about her, baby. But she saw a starfish, and she was like, "Oh." But if you have the zoo membership, you get 50% off like every other zoo in the United States. That's wild.
Yeah. Well, every
And a lot of
other
museums.
every other partner zoo,
Right, but
Yeah.
most of the zoos,
specifically around here, Omaha,
yeah.
which is tight.
Dude, I think we got into the Chicago Aquarium for like 50% off because of our zoo membership last time I was
When
there.
you said Partner Zoo, it just made me think of Ark Nova
Yeah.
because those are
Mm-hmm.
called.
I just played that.
Yeah.
I've been playing that. I'm kind of in a continuous game of Ark Nova with one of our listeners right now.
Which one? Sophist?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's cool. I'm playing with him too. Hey, Sophist, dude, invite me and Rob to the same game. We'll
And
play
I'm
3-player.
really bad at online Ark Nova.
Ark Nova is so fun. Like I was really down on Ark Nova, but
You ride the Ark Nova roller coaster constantly.
no. I've been up on Ark Nova for a long time now. Ever since I got once I hit 10 plays, I was like, or 15 plays, I was like, no, this is good.
The expansion rules.
And the expansion is very good.
Did you guys play with the expansion on Tuesday, Tim?
No, we played the store.
Those
copy.
guys rocked out a game of Ark Nova in under 90 minutes.
And you were two of you tied, and the person who wanted one more point.
One more point. Yeah.
And somebody hadn't played before.
Joe had not played before.
That's
so,
No,
impressive.
yeah,
Joe had played.
he did not.
He constantly tells this. He's not going to listen to this anyways. He constantly tells the story where he was playing with Rob, and there was 45 minutes till dungeons get closed, and we're like, "We're just going to play." Joe, you don't need to know how to play. And he describes that as his first play.
You
I
don't
mean,
really
that's
need to know how to
That's
play.
most games I play with Joe,
Yeah.
though. Because we did that the other day, too, and I'm like, we're just going to play this game. Let's go.
Ark Nova is probably the crunchiest game that you don't need to know how to play when you start playing it.
We just started playing Clank. He'd never played a Clank game, and that's what we did when we started our Clank Legacy 2 campaign. We're like, Joe, this is what you do.
Yeah.
But everything in Ark Nova makes sense, contextually. Like it tells you what to do right on the card. It all makes if you've ever played any other game with spatial rules and stuff, is it just all makes sense. Anyway,
All right, well, back to Finspan. This re-implements Wingspan. It is currently ranked 2,138th overall. It is 7.8 on BGG out of 10. Came out in 2025. In Finspan, you dive into the watery depths to find and observe a vast array of aquatic life. It's 1 to 5 players, as Stonemaier tends to do. Best at 2 to 3. 45 to 60 minutes. Ages 10 plus. Weight is 2.33 out of 5. The designers are David Gordon and Michael O'Connell. And the artist is Ana Maria Martinez Jaramillo and Mesa Schumacher. And the publisher is Stonemaier Games. And the instructional video is Watch It Played. As I look on the BGG page. Shockingly, I don't know how he's made the video. It's over 25 minutes.
I was going to watch it today, and I pulled it up. I was like, Finspan, I know it's not that long. I pulled it. I'm like, I'm not watching this. You could, you could do 1,000 other things besides watching that video and learn this game in I don't know.
5 minutes?
Yeah, like less than half the amount of time. I don't understand how.
I
it's
mean,
that
I will
long.
say this card that I'm about to look at to talk about the game, you can pretty much learn it from this one little piece of cardboard. So in Finspan, you play over 4 rounds, and every round you'll either be playing a fish on the board and paying its cost, or you'll be sending a diver down into the ocean, looking at fish and getting bonuses. And those bonuses can be drawing cards, or putting eggs on the board, or putting little fish on the board, or sorry, not putting fish. You'd be hatching eggs into fish. Those are the 3 columns. And if you've ever played Wyrmspan, where you go left to right and you do those kinds of things, or Wyrmspan, in Finspan, you go down the board. So your boards are actually oriented vertically instead of horizontally as you dive down into the ocean. Some things you do to pay for costs. Sometimes you got to discard cards out of your hand. Sometimes you pay eggs. Sometimes you pay young fish. Sometimes you pay these school fish, which are 3 little fish that have come together to make a school. And then at the end of every round, there's a scoring condition, and everyone will score that. And then at the end of the game, every fish, egg, school of fish, the points that are on the cards.
Cards that have endgame scoring.
Then there's some endgame scoring cards. Those are your points. And that's Finspan, folks. Let's get to the table and come back with our thoughts on Finspan, a wingspan.
If you're looking for Atlantis, you should cast your eye on me. Put your 2 and 2 together. Don't you know who built Atlantis? Then returned it to the sea. Don't you know who owns the weather? Rain or shine. Sure is good to see good challenge. Sure is fine to set your sights. Sure is foolish to be blinded. There are legions out there searching for the Holy Grail. Isn't one of them can find it? All this time. You should be loving someone, and you know who it must be. 'Cause you'll never find Atlantis till you make that someone me. You should be loving someone, and you know who it must be. 'Cause you'll never find Atlantis till you make that someone me.
All right, we are back. Let's hit our initial thoughts on Finspan. I'll go first. I heard that Finspan was coming out, and I could have cared less. Hot take, people. And then I kept hearing people playing it and saying it was fun. And we're a review podcast that likes to review popular games, so here we are.
Yeah, I'll go next. I had the absolute worst expectations for this game. I don't know that I had any desire whatsoever to even think about playing this game.
Historically, this podcast has not been a huge Span fan.
I've gone on the record saying that Wingspan is one of the most important games ever made.
Yeah, that's what Josh Ladd said, too.
No. Josh did not think so. Josh and I would fight about that.
No, he was with you. I was the I was the person that said it's overhyped. Yes.
No, I think it was overhyped, but I think it was very important.
But interestingly enough, if you look, Stonemaier releases their stockholder report every year, and it's bonkers just how many more copies of Wingspan that is sold over everything else, and then how Wyrmspan is their second highest game just because it was based off Wingspan.
I've never met a casual or non-gamer who anytime board games come up doesn't go oh, have you played Wingspan? That game sounds super fun. That's just it's huge. It's very meaningful.
I don't disagree with that fact. I just think it was overhyped.
I don't think anybody in this case Cam is saying that it's that great of a game as much as it was important for the hobby and getting more people into board games and making more games as a result of it.
But also the way you play it is much better than what the game actually is. Like, I think the whole philosophy behind like the way the game works and like how to attract people to casual games that you can teach quickly that are fun. I like before Wyrmspan, I think I would have thought of like one of like the gateway games being like Seven Wonders, which was very gamery in its approach. I think Wyrmspan was like a huge push towards like making like meaningful, thinky games that are like catered towards like a user experience that can be digested by people who have not like really played a lot of games.
Have you seen the video of Mandy Patinkin trying to learn Wyrmspan?
Well, no, I've tried to teach people who are not gamers Wyrmspan and had them get like caught up as well.
Yeah.
But I think that was the beginning of like this whole like movement in gaming.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get you. I'm just saying, I think Wyrmspan is not as easy as it appears.
Well, no,
on
I don't think so either.
the level.
But I think it was at the time, and I think they keep doing better because of it.
All right, Jake, what's your thoughts?
I have mixed feelings. I'm not the biggest fan, as we've said already, but I do think that a really cool thing that Stonemaier is doing here is that they're all different designers, and I think that it's really neat that they're having different designers come in and do their take on, what was an immensely important game for board games. So I think that's unique, and I think that's kind of cool. But for the game itself, I was pretty lukewarm.
Is it just a marketing ploy to sell more of these games?
Even if it is, I don't know how that's any different than games making expansions, like to get more money out of a game after the fact.
Or everything Uwe Rosenberg does.
I've never been a person. I hate when people call things cash grabs or money. Like, it's a business. Like, you're trying to make money. Like, I don't know. I don't get when people get all up in arms about like, oh, that they're just made that to make money.
Well, nobody complains when a sequel of their favorite video game comes out, right?
Like, duh.
And
Even if it
like
sucks.
when they talk about cash grabs, I think like it's like people say, well, like we're just doing this again, but like we're not putting a lot of love into it, and like that's a cash grab. But if you make a game that you're proud of, that is like the same thing, then that's good. Whether it's a video game or a board game or.
I mean, the joke is, oh, it's another Span game or whatever, which I also kind of get on board with. But
yeah, and those people like look at those people how many Dominion boxes they have on their shelf.
But from a business perspective, it only makes sense.
Yeah, except for the games. Like the games aren't good enough to stand on their own.
For you.
Well, sure, but like Wyrmspan would not sell nearly as much as if it was just the same game, not skinned in a Wyrmspan game.
You mean if it had come out first?
Not first,
Wyrmspan?
but like if it was the same game and there was no connection at all, like I don't think it would be nearly as nearly as much.
Like if I'm thinking about Wyrmspan and Finspan versus Wyrmspan, I think if Wyrmspan came out as its own thing, the dragon hatching game, I think that would have like gotten people to be like, "Oh, what'd you say?" Like I think people liked that theme. But I didn't really love the game so much. But like this one, I think people have been like a fish game. It's kind of boring, but like I played it tonight and I was like, I could play this 4 more times. I thought the gameplay was fast and fun, just like a real fish.
All right. Well, I guess we're into pros.
Fish are fun?
Fish aren't fun?
Well, I mean, fish are interesting, but they're fun?
Yeah, I thought they were interesting too, but also fun.
Okay.
Like you ever hear that phrase like funner than a fish?
Yep.
I heard it right now.
So I feel like we're probably going to be hitting a lot of comparisons to the other 2 spans, which we have done reviews on both of the other ones.
Yeah, so go listen to those first in their entirety.
And they are all fairly similar, but they all have their own differences for sure. And the biggest pro for me in this one is we're back to learning stuff about animals. And I really like the flavor text on the fish cards. I like to talk about the fish and read about the fish that I'm playing them. And I mean, the art on it is nice. And I don't know, I cared more for the fish than I thought I was going to care about the fish, which is my biggest pro for when Wyrmspan came out too. I was like, oh, I could care less about birds. But then in the middle of the game, I'm like, these birds are cool. So
Yeah.
I think for me, by far the biggest pro of this game is the length. This has broken the formula of how long Wyrmspan and Wyrmspan take, and there's just not anything about this game that I think would lend itself to being nearly as long as those two are. And another thing that I think is a huge pro is I love that they got rid of resources. I never think the gathering resources is interesting. I think that's the worst part about Wyrmspan is taking resources. And Wyrmspan was a little bit better at it because it came from where you play cards, and it's even better that they don't exist in this game. You're just using the components that you use in other segments of the game.
You basically took my two biggest pros like right out of my mouth. But like I think why they're huge pros for me is because at the core, I think the best thing about Wyrmspan is you have to get the eggs to get the cards, and you have to get the cards to get the resources, and you have to get the resources to get the it's that cycle of you take this action to be able to do that action. But like in order to grow, you have to have like enough of everything where you kind of start your chain over again. And this does the exact same thing, except it gets 5 different resources out of it, which was the most annoying part about Wyrmspan. And it also gets a lot of the like minutia of like activating your whole set. Like the things you do when activating are just fast, and like many of them let people do stuff in between their turn, and it just feels good all the time. Because like you get an egg, it's like yes, I get an egg. Whereas like in Wyrmspan, that just doesn't happen as much.
Hardly. This one has 10 times the amount of cards. It feels like that other people get to do stuff on their turn. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, and slimming the resources down, I think it just makes even the resources, but everything seems easier to do. Like when you're hunting fish or whatever it is, your fish are eating other fish, like there's way more fish that they can eat. Whereas in like Wyrmspan, it feels like such a smaller amount of the deck things can hunt or whatever it is. Getting eggs is easier, hatching your fish is easier. Everything seems like more streamlined and just easier to get done and not as tedious to go after, especially from Wyrmspan.
Well, on that same note, and Cam kind of mentioned the idea of the loop of the game, but usually when you get stuck, it's one turn to fix it, or somebody else's turn fixes it for you, which is kind of neat. It's just Wyrmspan, I feel like it's so much longer of a build up. Not if you have a good engine for something, but if you have to take the action that's your weakest, and as Cam mentioned, it's so cyclical of each thing relying on each other. There just aren't lulls in this game for that. You just more or less have the stuff that you need.
Don't you just play way more cards in this game? There's more spots on the board for sure, right? So, I mean, you're doing the most fun part of the game more.
And it's not punitive like the other ones are. The further you get down in the other ones, the more cards you play, the harder it gets to play cards, and that doesn't exist in this game.
Yeah, I mean, everything about it just kind of feels good. And like you guys said, I'll reiterate, my favorite part of Wyrmspan was they made resources better, and they made resources even better in this one because they're your cards, or you're their eggs, or you're their fish.
And on top of that, when you play your cards, there are so many ways to get your cards back out of the discard almost all the time.
Yeah, and you kind of get a fun loop with that too.
So like even if you have a card that you really want, you can still discard it and then get it back almost in the same turn.
And the fun thing too is like the whole game is kind of based around an egg becomes a young fish, and the young fish becomes a big fish. And now the big fish sits here and pops out eggs and young fish, and like that's really how the resources work, because you're paying like young fish and eggs and other fish, as in like eating to like grow a fish and put it out on the board. So it doesn't just make sense as like resources in a Euro game, but like it actually kind of simulates having like making fish more than Wyrmspan. I mean, Wyrmspan does the same thing, but like I think in a less obvious way, because you get to move your little baby fish around the board and have them swim around and do stuff. Like that's cool too.
Mm-hmm.
And it brought back around the predator bird. There's fish in here. Any fish can eat any fish in this game too. And I always thought that was fun from the original Wyrmspan.
Just like real life.
When your birds were eating birds.
I think the running of your, I guess, columns in this is it's a lot more similar to Wyrmspan.
Definitely.
In how you run them.
Yeah.
This one I think is even better, and I would say the little areas where like if I just put a card in here, I get something. I think it's a little bit more like the caves in Wyrmspan. I did like that, and then again when you run and activate stuff, a lot of those cards give other people things, and I don't know the amount of times that getting one egg or one fish from you guys made me not have to take another turn. like I didn't have to go take the eggs turn now to do what I wanted to do, helped out and made the game way more fun.
Yeah, I would venture to say that this is the one span game that I want to play with more players than fewer players. I think you get to do more fun things in a higher player count game. This is probably the only Wyrmspan game that I would want to play with 5. Like, I think I would play this with 5 no problem. I think it would still play in about an hour, and more stuff could pop off and you could do more things. And definitely at 4, it's fine. Whereas the other 2 span games, like 4 is my upper limit. And I think they're both probably really fun. Like, I probably like Wyrmspan and Wyrmspan more than most people at this table. And I liked Wyrmspan the best because of the resource thing.
It was not fun at 5.
But did we do it at 5 one time?
Yeah, Dungeons Gate when Tim
Yeah,
first played
just
it.
like... But
Wyrmspan or Wyrmspan?
Wyrmspan.
But I think both of those games are really fun 2 or 3 player games. And if you like solo, I actually played all 3 of these games solo this week. And if you like solo games, they're all really good and they're all really easy. Even Wyrmspan is not hard. I mean, they all work somewhat similar with the deck of cards. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of revisit the other 2 so I could kind of remember how to play Wyrmspan too. Yeah, I think this is the only one that I think 5 or 4 is where it's at.
Yeah.
All right. Any more pros? It's not a lot to the
No,
game. So, like,
I have a
we basically talked about every piece of the game being a pro.
I have a prawn, and it's the fact that I don't know. I know I'm a deluxe or bust guy, but I don't know if that is really necessary in this game.
Was this the deluxe version?
Yeah, so and here it is. I'll give you your take, Cam, because you don't know this part yet. The regular game, the little fish, and the egg is just a token that you flip over. So it's 2-sided. Whereas with the fancy pieces, you have the little jelly egg and the wooden token, and then you have to like physically put it back and get the other one. Whereas if you're hatching an egg in the other game, or in like the basic game, you're just flipping the cardboard chit over, which I think I almost prefer, but I didn't know that before the fact, and I was like, ooh, squishy eggs, and so I got them. But I think like it's a coin flip. Like if you like squishy eggs, and they also kind of roll around your board potentially, I think the base tokens are just fine in this, and actually probably are better for gameplay. It's a fairly minor thing, but
First time we've ever played a game where having a prawn is like appropriate. I'll let you guys think about that one for a while.
I got you. Because we played with the cardboard tokens at Dungeons Gate, right?
We did, yeah.
So you kind of got to see the difference, Jake.
I did. I mean, it certainly was easier to manage, but it's not like it's too cumbersome to take them off and grab somebody to replace
Yeah.
them.
I mean, at least you didn't flip over your whole board tonight.
I didn't do that. So let's jump right into that. The player boards, if we're jumping to cons, are vertical, which is unique. But the problem is, like, they're just not going to fit on very many tables. It's nice that there's no middle components, no central board or anything that takes up space. But the way, a lot of tables probably aren't wide enough to get 2 of them across. So you're either staggering, or in the case of us at Dungeons Gate, the bottom of the board just hung off a little bit. And I went to raise my hand once and completely flipped my board and all my cards and all my eggs and all my fish onto Rob and Jared's boards. I think we mostly got everything back where it went, but that was a lot. So they're kind of a weird long shape, and that might make the play a little bit awkward if you're clumsy and don't have a surface that works for that very well.
I don't think I have any cons. I just thought this was a streamlined version of Wyrmspan that, like, ideally, if I was going to teach my casual friends to play Wyrmspan, I would teach them Finspan, I think. I don't know if I can say anything bad about it, really.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know that I care too much, but there was no card row. The deck doesn't seem to be as big as, like, maybe my Wyrmspan has like 4 expansions on it, so it's just massive. But
you own Wyrmspan?
Yeah. I actually really like Wyrmspan. I don't like
we
Wyrmspan.
all like Wyrmspan.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is like 2 times you're like, you guys don't really like Wyrmspan.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think anybody did.
Yeah. Well, none of us like
Bro,
Wyrmspan.
I own the app.
Wyrmspan's actually my favorite of them.
Yeah.
I was mad on Wyrmspan.
Yeah, I don't even remember what I was going to say, but
You were saying
Card
oh,
game.
card.
there's no card row, so you with the objectives, you could just kind of not pull all the ones you need. Like in this case, we had the predator icons or whatever. I think Jake and I just happened to pull more predator icons out of the deck than you guys did, which was a pretty significant amount of points we scored. I think all of us played all the ones that we drew. It's not like somebody had a chance to play more than they did, so that just means that we drew more than you did.
Yep.
So if that kind of stuff bothers you, like,
put a card row out.
sure, yeah.
I don't think it's that big of a deal because like I didn't win the Predator thing and I won the game.
Yeah, and I mean, that's obviously going to bother some people, right? And I don't, for the quick playing nature of the game, I actually like it. I mean, I'm a tactical person anyway, so like, I just roll with what I've been given and do what I do. But I don't see why you couldn't house rule a 3-card row just like every other Span game has.
Counterpoint, that would make the game take longer.
It would.
And counterpoint, you have your discard pile that you can look through and pull stuff back out of. So there's your card row.
Right.
And counterpoint, when
That's
you go
true.
fishing, you can't see what you're going to catch. Like when you're hunting for birds, you can just see the bird and go, I want that one.
I mean,
Not the really fast one.
That's true, like a hummingbird.
I mean, I have a depth
An African
finder
swallow.
that tells me how big the fish are.
Yeah.
So I think another thing why maybe that doesn't matter quite as much is just it's just a short game. It's not a huge commitment. When you're playing something really long and the draws matter a lot, that could be a problem. But counterpoint to what Cam just said, he didn't win and he didn't have those. I did not draw a single card that scored endgame stuff, and you got 25 points from drawing cards.
I got 15 points.
I think you had a 10 and a 15 or a 10 and
and
a
a 5.
Okay, so
But I had to do stuff to get there.
sure, but I mean, just on that note, like that is something that's with this. My biggest con, and I want to preface this by saying, more or less, people know what they're going to get with a Span game, but there's just nothing you can really do different in this game. It's just going to be the same every time. So the way that which specific fish you play and what the objectives are, but you're just going to curb your play to what those objectives are. You're just going to curb your play to what the cards in your hand are. There's no diversity in the experience of what you're going to get in this. And if you just like playing a game that doesn't require a lot of sophisticated planning and strategy, then that doesn't matter. But for those who do want that, this is not going to scratch the itch of what that Euro, game is going to give for you.
There are a lot of games that I could play a million billion times in a row that are like the same size as Finspan that don't offer a lot of choices. But like I think you have to think about this game as not as big of a game as Wingspan. I don't really think it's a con. Like I think the con here is wanting this game to be this like the same complexity level as a game in a bigger box. But there's a lot of games in small boxes that are complex too. But
I think you're saying actually the variety in how the game plays differing from one game to another, and
no, I'm saying there's a lot like variety. That's what Jake's saying. Like you can't go like different directions. Like in Wingspan, you really can.
I mean, but kind of. I mean, all three of them are more or less the same in what you're trying to accomplish and the goals that are out there for what you're trying to do. The reason I think I like Wyrmspan the most is just because it does add that other board of extra things to plan around, and there's a way to kind of wobble into stuff, which I think is interesting. And there's just that doesn't exist in this. And honestly, this doesn't matter if you're somebody who just wants to play a game. This is a game. It's accessible. It's fast. It's easygoing. But like, it just doesn't do anything.
so it's fine.
I mean,
It is fine.
I played Dice Hospital like a bazillion times, and to me, Dice Hospital's like this, where it's like, yeah, I'm always just grabbing a doctor or a ward. I'm just healing the dice. Like it doesn't really change much between plays.
But I completely disagree, because the way that that which dice you're choosing and which upgrades you're choosing and how you're trying to manage that and leading something into what you're going to be able to hopefully get out of it, like setting up your dice for an
that's
upgrade
true.
that could come up, even if it's not up there, getting the
that's
same
true.
ones. Like I think Dice Hospital is amazing, and that's
But like all these, you kept saying like, there's the cards might do similar things, but they're all different. Like I've played this game 5 or 6 times now, and my points have been in vastly different places.
there's just not like I'm going to play
I mean,
this
the
game
game loop seems
Yeah, and
similar.
it's just like there's not a time where you can put Finspan out and say, I'm going to do this game. Like it just
no, you're gonna get what.
that's my point. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter for some people. It does matter for me. And
Yeah,
so
it's
that's-
because you're a more strategical player and
Sure.
I'm a more tactical player.
Sure.
So that
is only a con for some people.
I would say it doesn't help that this game you can basically do everything. Like by the end of the game, we all had most of our boards filled out. We had a bunch of school fish. Like we got it. Doesn't this is definitely not a game where the game ends. You're like, oh man, I wish I had another round.
yeah, I mean I was running out of places to
Yeah,
put
we were all
fish.
like, we get another whole
Right.
round.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe if the game was you might feel different if the game was 3 rounds instead of 4.
But also, there's just not anything that you're like reaching for. Like it's cool, I guess, to fill your whole board, but there's nothing I'm really trying to do because this is a pro on the other side. But every card you get, it's a reasonable amount of stuff to get them out. Like there's never a time where you're like, man, I got to get all this groundswell and stuff to do it. But I realize that it's something I just gave as a con that the lupus is short. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I guess that's if you are somebody again who wants that deeper itch, this isn't it. But I think people know that already. So
I think it's fun to try to create like the engines that you run with the divers.
See, Rob gets on. Do you ever take a road trip with your friends and you're like, we're gonna make it to California or bust, and you drive out to California and you're like standing like on the ocean and you're like, it's really the journey out here that was fun. That's what Finspan is.
All right, well, should we get to our final
Am I
thoughts?
wrong? I don't think so. So there we go.
It was about the friends we made along the way.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about the fish we fished along the way.
Yeah, baby. All right, well, here on the Board Boys podcast, we have a 3 Boeing rating scale, 0 being the worst, 3 being the best. One time only, you give your 4 Boeing game. Half Boeings are allowed. A 3 Boeing game of Wingspan is, I think you just catch
of Wingspan.
a Finspan. Woo! You catch Bruce the Shark. And a 0 Boeing game is you just spent. I hated fishing as a kid, especially like when you didn't catch stuff. I love fishing when you catch stuff.
I don't like it either time.
I also don't like it
Really?
either time.
I don't think I've ever actually caught a fish.
I have.
I mean, my dad is a huge fisherman. Like he wouldn't be able to play this game, but
Hang on, does he fish a lot or is he just a really big guy?
he likes to fish a lot.
Sorry, I'm just joking about this.
I don't know. It just made me think about that because I don't know. You're sitting in a boat all day and you catch no fish. That's not fun.
It's about the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, well, that is.
I don't know why that was targeted at me.
That is the whole.
What's that?
Well, Cam was said.
No, I
let's-
targeted at Jake.
Oh, I thought Cam
I
said
said
my
Rob,
name.
I said Rob gets what I'm saying.
Oh,
And then
okay.
Yeah, and then I gave my example. But like, what people like about fishing is the same thing that people like about Finspan. It's that it's like it's a good time with the people you love, and hey, maybe we catch a lot, maybe we don't, but like no matter what. Like we're spending time together, and that's why ultimately why people like to play board games. I mean, that's why a lot of people like to play board games. There are some people who show up wearing like the Terra Mystica T-shirt, and they're like,
I'm here to
Prepare to
crush.
die.
Yeah.
Not that guy. That's my nemesis right there. All right, well, I guess I'll start. I was not high in this game, and then the more we talked about it tonight, I think the higher it went up for me. So 2.5 Boeings for me. Out of all the Wingspan games, this might be my favorite. I really like Wyrmspan, but when I play, like, if I'm gonna grab a Wingspan game out, I'm gonna get Finspan because I'm gonna remember instantly how to play it,
right.
and I can play it with way more people. I'm excited to see more cards at this point. Like, I know there's a lot of cards in that deck, but I feel like I've seen a lot of them now.
I honestly thought between our hands and our boards, we went through 2/3 of that deck tonight.
Yeah, I mean,
I really think so.
You go through a lot of them, but you don't get all of them.
Sure,
right?
but like we saw them anyways.
But yeah, I think always more cards.
That's that's my thing about the card thing too, which I didn't really say, is you draw so many cards when it's time to draw cards.
You do, and if you had to constantly be looking at a card row for that, it would be awful.
I had one fish card that I played that cost me like 1 egg, and it was like draw 58 cards.
I'll go next. I think I probably had the least amount of expectations for this game of maybe the whole table. I actually, surprisingly, I like this game. I thought it was good. It was short. I think the shortness and the ease of how you kind of do everything makes it infinitely better than Wyrmspan. I know that Rob loves it to death, but I would agree. Like this one would be the one that I would pull, especially because my Wingspan I think is pretty bloated with the extra stuff in there, which is sometimes fun, but now that it is and it's all kind of worked in together, I don't know that I can back it out. I would probably bring this one out if I had it. So
Yeah, I need to figure out the best way to play Wingspan now.
I think it's just base game.
I know, but I have everything.
Yeah, I know, and you got to like back it all out. I'm gonna give it a 2. I'm gonna give it 2.
I can go next. I just don't think the spans are for me, and that's fine. It's just I'm not the target audience, and I do think that Wyrmspan is my favorite, but I don't really want to play Wyrmspan.
Hey, hold on. Has anybody played Wyrmspan since the podcast?
Rob did.
Me.
Okay.
But I played it by myself.
What about you haven't played it with anybody else?
No.
You haven't, okay.
Because as much as I like it, it's not a game I pull off the shelf, be like, hey, let's play Wyrmspan.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I don't play a lot of games after they're 6 months
Yeah,
old.
but there's a lot of times where
Like I didn't put it on my 20 by 5.
right, and
you
there's
know?
there's a lot of times where you talk about one like I don't think I've ever heard you say, "Yeah, man, we should get Wyrmspan back on again."
Yeah, I mean that's partially because I don't think anybody I know likes it.
Yeah, maybe there's a reason.
But going back to that, I do think Wyrmspan is my favorite because it is more gamery, and I think there is a little bit more of an ability to just kind of decide what you're going to do. So I think I still like that one better, but I think I'd rather play Finspan. Is that weird?
No.
I like Wyrmspan better, but I'd rather play Finspan.
I mean, Wyrmspan did take like 6 hours for us to play.
I mean, it
that
didn't
one
take
day.
6 hours,
Okay.
but it was.
So
it was
felt
a
like
lot.
it took 6 hours.
So I'm really between a 1.5 and a 2 on this, but I'm going to give it a 2 because I think it does what I think the spans are trying to do, maybe the best, even if that best isn't for me.
I knew I was going to like this game more than Wingspan if it reduced the complexity, I think. And I knew I would like it less if it made it added too much superfluous stuff. I was excited to see how the fish Wingspan looked, and I think it's my favorite look of all the Span games. Definitely, I think that to just sit down and play, this would always be the Span game I was most excited to sit down and play. Is it a contender to be which Span do I buy? I think yes, where I don't think Wyrmspan is. I want to go 2.5. This game, I want to play it a few more times, and if I'm just as excited after game 3, then that bump rating, the boing rating can go up. I don't think it's going down. Oh, this is very good.
Cam is on a streak of podcast episodes he's been on with 2.5s and 3s. We played bangers.
This has been a good season so far.
All right, cool. Well, that'll wrap us up for Finspan. We do like to look 1 year in the past at the board games we reviewed them. Cam, are you going to hit us with a new song?
Maybe. Hang on. No. Baby, turn around. I wanna see that sexy board game go. Board boys bump.
Or dump.
Or bump.
I was kind of hoping you were going to work in what Billy the Seabass, the song he sang, "Don't Worry, Be Happy." You know,
Oh.
I was hoping you were going to make a version out of that.
Take me to the river. Put me in the water. Do you guys like the Al Green version of that song or the Talking Heads version of that song more?
It's definitely talking. I really like the Talking Heads. So
I love you like I do.
Yeah.
Is that a good David Byrne?
yeah, that's a good.
How's my
David
Al
Byrne.
Green? I don't know why I love you like I do.
That's pretty good too.
Take me in the river. This is for my cousin, Lil Junior Parker. You know, that's what he talks about at the beginning of the song. Al
Yeah.
Green.
So Wyrmspan is an 8.0 now. It was an 8.1 for 1075. It is clearly a giant bump.
Is it the top 100?
It is not in the top 100. It's 148. 148.
The span effect, baby.
Dude,
I'll be curious to see where this one lands with the other two.
yeah.
I think it'll go higher than Wyrmspan.
I hope so. I hope so.
What's Wingspan now?
Like
Top 30?
Top 10?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't come prepared to talk about Wingspan. I just said we have an opportunity to do a look back and the new game all in one episode.
Yeah.
So.
Whoa.
Wingspan is 32. So it probably has maybe gone down a little bit.
Yeah,
Like,
and for those of
it
you
was
guys who are
definitely
math
buzzed up there.
nerds, that is in the top 100.
It is in the top 100.
We all knew Wingspan was going to be. We said it was Wyrmspan in the top.
No, I'm
100.
just saying that for those people out there doing math, we know that 32 is a number that's lower than 100, so that makes it in the top 100.
Well done, Cam.
I don't know how this is rated so high.
Wyrmspan?
Yeah.
The Wingspan effect.
Yeah.
Plus,
Yeah,
it's
because
better.
it's a cash grab.
Plus, it's better than Wingspan,
Yeah, I don't agree.
in my opinion, and Jake's opinion. I mean, I still I busted it out. I played a game solo of Wyrmspan this week in 25 minutes.
I think I did say on the podcast, and I've only played it once, that I maybe would like it more than Wingspan, but I didn't think it was would have been as important as Wingspan.
The only problem I have with Wyrmspan is the lore isn't on the cards, and you got to go look in the book for the lore.
It's lame.
But they did include like a whole book about the dragons they made up. So
Why didn't they put those on the cards?
I don't know.
Okay. If you'd like to give us feedback on the bumper dump, you can do so at our Board Game Geek Guild. There is a bunch on this one, so we'll kind of rip through it here.
Hold on, what did I give? What did we give Wyrmspan? I'm just curious.
2s all around, except for me, I gave it a 1.
Okay,
Whoa.
so I went higher on this than Wyrmspan.
Yeah, it's because it's better. So,
Yeah,
It is better.
This must be my favorite one.
Yeah.
Finspan, baby.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go. No, go.
No, I'll go ahead. Hey, Jake, Tim, Rob, best Talking Head song.
You're asking outside of the very limited genre of music I listen to.
You don't listen to alternative music?
Not that
You don't listen
alternative.
to indie rock?
Those are the things I listen to, but apparently not the Talking Heads.
Talking Heads
Psycho Killer.
is really good.
Yeah. I think one of the greatest live albums ever made is that the Stop Making Sense.
Making Sense, yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. What do you think, Rob?
I had to look it up because I don't know what they sing, but
I have a hard time knowing the names of songs.
I mean, I like Burning Down the House. I think.
Yeah, very nice. Good.
But I probably like Psycho Killer
Yeah.
too.
I like the one where he's like,
I mean, those are the two most famous ones, right?
what's the
Me
name
to
of
the
this-
River.
What's the name of that song
Yeah.
where he's like, Burning Down the House, Psycho Killer, Take Me to the River. This Must Be the Place. Is that the one where? Wait,
Yeah.
what's the one with? And the days go by, and the water underground.
I
You
like
may
that
ask
one,
yourself,
too.
this is not my beautiful
Yeah,
house.
I don't
That's
know the
my
name-
favorite
I don't know the
Talking
names
Head
of
song.
any
It's
songs,
it's
yeah.
same as it ever was. Okay, best Al Green song.
I have no idea.
You guys don't have a favorite Al Green song? What about I'm so tired of being alone?
good, yeah.
Well, or how about no, the best Al Green song is where the times are good or bad, happy or sad. You guys know that one?
Yeah, that's good.
So in love with you. Yeah, rate my Al Green impression. Whatever you want to do.
It's like Al Green crossed with Michael
It's
McDonald.
all right with me.
I want to hear your Bismarcky impression now.
Bismarcky?
Bismarcky, yes.
Have you ever met a girl that you're trying to date? Okay, you got what I need, and you say he's just a friend. Oh, baby! Too much crack there. I don't think he cracked as hard as I did.
All right, if you want to give us feedback, you can do so at our Board Game Geek Guild. Dave Braun, our buddy Dave Braun, he wants to like Wyrmspan more than I do, but every time I play it, I've left more frustrated with the experience. For some reason, AP and long turns make this game annoy me a lot more than other games. And each time I played this game, it has been with one player that has struggled with taking long turns. He says he gives it 1.5 boings. BJ for Board Game Gumbo. He only has one play, but he's a complete disagree with Dave Braun. After one play, he sold all his Wingspan expansions because he'd just rather play Wyrmspan. I'd play it more, but I don't own a copy yet. That being said, Finspan is on the way, so we'll see how that goes with 3 of them. Jeremy Doppler, I enjoy it, but not nearly as much as Wingspan. Something about the birds that keeps me there. I think that's a little bit of you, right? You know?
A mix between him and BJ.
Yeah. Wyrmspan is a perfectly fine game and just different enough while being a hair more complex. It keeps keep both in his collection. It's 2.5 for him. Jeremy Thoman, Wyrmspan greater than Wingspan for Jeremy. I only haven't sold my Wingspan because it takes effort to sell, and I like bird cards. That's the only pro for me with Wingspan. The bird art and reading about the birds. So 2.5 boings for Jeremy Thoman. BJ comes back and says that he's actually going to give it 2.5 boings. So that's a good bop in from him. And then Rob Cooper, Wyrmspan is a fine game, decent mechanics, virtually pleasing. Wyrmspan only adds a little bit to this, but does try to refine some of the core stuff. It fixes some of the small problems with Wyrmspan and adds a little complexity. It also introduces interesting action economy, which allows you to earn more actions and save your actions for later. Wyrmspan is 2 boings for him, not doing anything new or amazing. All right, and last one, Luis Fontes. Wyrmspan is a solid 2.5, better than Wyrmspan in every way, but the cute factor, somehow my family and friends rather play Wyrmspan for the art, and I get that. So he keeps tailing it more than Wyrmspan. That said, prefer Wyrmspan. I like having more control, more crunchies, and more cool turns. A solid 2 game without any AP.
There's a pretty good theme running through all those responses.
It does not surprise me that people that reply to a board game podcast like the crunchier game. That makes sense.
But still like Wyrmspan for the other reasons, you know? So
and all their families like Wyrmspan more.
Yeah, there was a lot of similarities in the responses there. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of the Board Boys Podcast, Season 15, Episode 5. Finspan from Stonemaier Games. Go to theboardboys.com, hit our Patreon link there to support us. You can also hit our Discord link. Come hang out, say hi, play some BGA games with Cam and the rest of the boys. And the rest, there's lots of board boys out there, right?
Yep.
I'd like to thank our Patreon members now. Hammond McDonough, BJ from Board Game Gumbo, Timothy Crisco, Shifty Teeth, Mitchell Prudhomme, Jordan Smith, Jeff Gray, Andre Bosch, Braden Dowdy, Rob Cooper, Richard Lane, Matt Kelly, Jeremy Thoman, and Dom Lankin. Thanks again for listening, everybody, and until next time, we hope you like board games.
Boing, boing, boing. Sorry, I got really distracted by this Facebook ad that popped up where this dude looks exactly like Tim Robinson.
How about blub, blub, blub?
Yeah, blub, blub, blub.
Oh, let's see again. Now my hurricanes have brought down this ocean rain to bathe me again. My ship's a sail, can you hear its tender frame screaming from beneath the waves, screaming from beneath the waves. All hands on deck at dawn, sailing to cider shores. Your port in my heavy storms harbors the blackest thoughts. I'm at sea again, now your hurricane brought down this ocean rain to bathe me again. My ship's a sail, can you hear its tender frame screaming from beneath the waves, screaming from beneath the waves. All hands on deck at dawn, sailing to cider shores. Your port in my heavy storms harbors the blackest thoughts. two-sided shore.